Hello, and welcome to Mr. Herbert's Science class. Today we're going to talk about electric motors, and I'm going to demonstrate the very unusual and amazing Cork motor, and it is running on a lithium ion battery. So I'll get to that in a moment. But here I want you to see this is a big electric motor. It's pretty old. It's 1.5 horsepower. It turns at 1750 RPM, and this is 3-phase electric 220. Here's a 1/2 horsepower grinder motor. Motors are in everything. What would we do without this stuff? Now, how does this all work in the model airplane field? Here, this is a antique Colt 45, and that's a 4-stroke gas motor to run on fuel. And I've got plenty of gas motors around in my model airplanes, my lawn tractor, and of course Jaws. This is an interesting motor. This is actually out of a, well, maybe I won't tell you. It has a reversing switch here, and I can reverse this back and forth as you see it kicks. Also, if you look down in there, you can see the brushes rubbing. This is a DC motor. Even though it's plugged into the wall, it's a DC motor. All DC motors used to have brushes. That motor is out of a shredder. Well, being a model airplane nut, I've been experimenting with electric motors since they first came out. It's a ducted fan motor, 370 size. Here we have another brush motor for flying model airplanes. This is a helicopter K-Speed from Kyosho. The standard 540 can motors that we used in our Hyperflies and Concept 30 electrics. Here is is another brush motor, and as you can see, and then we've come into geared motors too. And it works itself down. The 370 Hummingbird motor here. The old-fashioned servo motors here, and nowadays we've got motors that are actually called outrunners, and the reason they're called outrunners is because the outside of the motor turns and the inside is stationary, and this allows you to do many different things with an incredible lot of torque. Of course, it has to be controlled by a special speed controller, which they usually come with or you can buy separately. In the old days, and especially on my very first electric helicopter that was imported into the United States, they used big rheostats like this with brushes that rode across the top, and when it bounced, the brush would bounce off, and it wasn't too great. The idea of the outrunner motor came actually from CD-ROMs. There's 3 motors in a CD-ROM. You've got a motor right here that actually does the ejection. We've got a motor right here that does the rotating of your laser eye so it reads the CD. And then you have a constant speed CD-ROM motor right here. And these are outrunners. And the same thing, it is very well controlled speed-wise, has plenty of torque, and works a good long time. So that's the latest thing. And they are, of course, controlled electronically, but with a controller like this. Motors are quite small too, including the small motor in this little servo. The difference is absolutely amazing. And then we have the tail rotor motors now that are very small on helicopters like this E-Sky Honeybee. And of course one of the tiniest motors right here on the back of the miniature Pico Z helicopter. Here we have the amazing Cork motor. As you can see, it's using a cork for the armature. South pole on this nail, North pole on this nail. Each time it makes contact, it sends a pulse. It's being powered by an 11.1 volt LiPo battery. This motor was built by my wife in her science class back in 1960. Let's take a look at it. As you see, it's cork. The armature consists of two metal copper tubes, and each side of the nail is wrapped in different direction, so that's what gives you the opposing shot. So when the motor turns around, it makes contact, it kicks it. See that? Now, is that not amazing technology? This is where it all started, folks. Somebody with an idea. From that to all of this.